Good evening. Just getting into the music there. Uh, got into the music and got into this crazy outfit. It's another episode of Moen After Dark. I don't really know what we'll be talking about tonight, guys. Do you have anything?
I don't know. I'm
Is
thinking about
anything going
changing.
on?
I
I'm
think
gonna
we
get
got
a
a whole lot to choose here, but you know,
I'm gonna
you
get a
talk about your
haircut.
outfit. Yeah, nice.
So it's the eve of destruction.
Mm-hmm.
If we are to believe what FSU is going to do tomorrow, they're going to push the button on the ACC. They will let the thing be pressed. Um, Boy, it seems like it came so fast out of nowhere. What are your guys' thoughts on it? Immaculate.
Well, on FSU, coming out of nowhere, shoot, this has been a slog for me. Um, I'm I'm relieved. I know a lot of people are excited. I'm just relieved that like, okay, folks, see, there you go. Now everyone can relax a little bit once the excitement settles down a little bit, and we know where we're going. It's not just you know talk. It's not just maybes. It's pretty clear now. This is where we're going. And then when you top that off with what's going on with the Pac-2 now, I mean, it's been quite a day.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not much
great
of an "I
point.
told you so" person, but I told you so. If you're joining this channel for the first time, uh, you haven't heard from us from Adam. You're gonna realize we're gonna talk like we've been talking about this for a long time. We known it's something was gonna happen the minute USC said they were leaving the Pac-12. We just didn't know what that was gonna look like. Now we have those final steps. They exclude Florida State. Florida State gets pissed. We need respect. We're going to do our own thing. They're going to do their thing tomorrow morning. And then, right on the heels of that, within 12 hours of those first initial reports, now all of a sudden you have a settlement in the Pac 2. And those were all the dominoes we told everybody. So I told you so. We told you so. And now we just hope you will trust us because the next year is going to be more of this. And it's just going to be crazier. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, really interesting. My one of my sources, their big Midwestern school, which will not be named, had told me to look for it before Christmas,
Really?
and
Oh,
it's happened before Christmas. And I can share another nugget with you guys tonight if everybody's interested. Florida State has all the money they need to get this done.
Sweet.
The money's there.
Sweet.
yeah.
They are not pulling this trigger empty-handed. They are not coming out of that stall with just their dick in their hand.
Did
Or
anybody think they would,
Godfather.
though, Moen?
A lot of people would. They were thinking, well, they're going to see if they can raise money here, raise money there.
Nah.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. The money's raised. The money's raised. The deal's been signed. They are coming out both barrels. Salazzo's going to get it. The ACC is Salazzo, and they're going to catch one right in the dining room table, and then Florida State's going to drop the gun and leave for Sicily for a year and a half. Um, that's the plan. But once Salazzo's dead and the Turk's dead, then you've got the war. McCluskey's dead, Salazzo's dead. Now we go to war and see where everybody else ends up. Because Florida State's the first. They won't be the last.
They're just the
Clemson's
most
going to be,
capable.
yeah, Clemson's right behind them. UNC's going to be right behind Clemson. Probably Virginia, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, Miami are all going to be trying to get out as well. Once they figure out if Florida State does what they're going to do, it just takes one. We talked about it last night, Nate. One act of defiance will start a revolution. This is that act of defiance.
Just remember this one thing, though. You just named the Magnificent Seven. One out of that group leaked the existence of those talks. And one out of that group is not like the others. That's all.
I would just like to include and say to carry on with what you guys are saying is that at the end of the day, the stuff that is out there, Florida State would not make a move. This wouldn't have been declared and announced by the school itself unless, and this is the unless, they had a landing spot that was going to be soft. And
Yeah.
they do.
You
That's
need a
it.
landing spot, and you need to know you have the money.
That's
Otherwise,
right. And
you
it's already done. It's already done.
getting fired if they did all this and didn't know what they were doing, and people be gone.
It would have been done in August, as we know, but they didn't have the money secured. It was an idea, but they hadn't put in the time. The last 5 months has been, let's follow up on that idea.
Yeah, and let's sort of just get some business out of the way here, guys. Thanks for joining us here on this episode of Moen After Dark. If you could, give us a like. If you're not a subscriber, if you're a new viewer, give us a subscribe. Those things are free, cost you nothing, and help us so much. If you're feeling generous, by all means, leave us a super chat. We read all super chats. We also have gifted memberships enabled for our new membership tiers, the Soldier, the Wise Guy, and the Capo. Pretty soon, we're going to be creating our own Twitter X group chat that we'll invite people into, where we'll share some of these little nuggets of information we get from sources from time to time, and just to kind of rap with you guys back and forth. So let's see who we've got joining us here tonight already. Casting for Chrome's in the house. The settlement happened. Finally, and if you don't think that had anything to do with Florida State leaving, there are no coincidences. God does not play dice with the universe. The Big Lubbock reminds us that he is second.
That's
Texas
pretty good.
Tech
He can be late at times. That's nice he's here.
won the Big 12 yesterday. Well, I think we all agree recruiting is one thing. Those guys have to pan out.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Texas fans coming hard at Beaver fans about baseball on the X today. I don't follow baseball.
No, it's a big Beaver thing.
It is a Beaver thing because
they're very
honestly,
big.
they need to be attached to something bigger than the Mountain West or the West Coast Conference. So
There was a guy, I can't
That's
remember
the
exactly
reason.
who he was. He's on Twitter. He was talking today about the baseball team and being independent and that they should sign with the Big 12, or they're talking to him or something. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of these themes starting to come out. It's always maybe the most fun part about this is when we first start talking about these things and everyone says you're crazy. And it's like, okay. And then once things start to happen, like all of a sudden the crazy becomes normal and everyone forgets that those ideas were once crazy. It's, to me, that's the most fun about realignment. I don't know. Maybe that's kooky, but I enjoy that part of it.
Daniel Gygax says the same was said about the Big 12 quite a few times, but I wonder what loophole FSU found. Well, I can tell you what loophole they found. It's the SMU loophole. They're going to throw a shitload of money at it. I predict Moen will be dressed as Macho Man Randy Savage. You lost that prediction. Oh, yeah, dig it.
I think that's fantastic.
Daniel Gygax wants us to do a 3-hour show. That's not happening, Daniel Gygax.
No, I'm about to fall asleep.
It's been a long day.
Right. I've got a drinking show to prepare for tomorrow. And by the way, if just want to mention that tomorrow drinking show, I secured the bottle of Crown Royal. I've got my 50 caliber shot glass. Yeah,
Let's
Nate.
start it. How do you feel about starting at 7 Eastern instead of 7:30? You guys okay with that?
That's fine with me.
Let's do that because Ute's not here, so we don't have to worry about working around him.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Work for you, Immaculate?
Sure. I'm not the one drinking.
I love it. I'm going to be the only one drinking from the Big 12 Mafia team on the show.
I might have a drink. I don't know if I'm going to be
a drink.
Yeah, I'll have my little whiskey on the side then.
So can I read this statement from Jayath Murthy, president of Oregon State, and Kirk Schultz? It's a joint statement. I have the sweet dulcet voice, right? Here we go.
There you go.
Their quote, this is in response to the announcement there's a settlement for the Pac-2. The statement reads, in September, as the two remaining members of the Pac-2 conference, Oregon State and Washington State University were forced to act swiftly to protect the future viability of the Pac-12. Thanks to the determination and strength of Beaver Nation and Cougar Nation and the excellence of our student athletes and coaches and staff, We are now closer to achieving our goal. Today's news marks a huge victory for our universities and a significant step towards stabilizing, and this is the part I think is interesting, stabilizing the Pac-12 conference and preserving its 108-year legacy. And then one last, I guess, two more sentences. The departing schools, have agreed to forfeit a portion of distributions over the remainder of 23-24 and provide specific guarantees against potential future liabilities, meaning we're going to keep some of the money back.
House versus NCAA.
You're right. And then we're going to put that into probably an escrow. And that money is going to be used to protect all the schools who are still involved against these larger lawsuits that are going to affect all 12 of them. So what I find interesting about this statement is basically they're telling the world, we won. We're keeping more of our own money. The leaving 10 don't get as much money. And on top of that, they are not released from future liabilities. I found that really interesting.
There's a lot to glean from that. I don't know how much we want to get into that right now, but there's a lot to glean from that. I mean, one, the fact that people were wondering why they didn't do the payout for this time of year. You can see how much they were worrying about future liabilities. And if people are wondering what that is, there's multiple things it could be, but House versus NCAA and stuff like that is heavy on their mind. And for them to still have liabilities for what goes on here, but then they're also going to be tied into what's going on, say, in the Big 12 or the Big 10 or whatever conference they're going to. There's a lot more reason to, get the Big 12 closed down or the Pac-12 closed down for the Big 10 and Big 12 now. I mean, when your member schools are now going to be tied into the liabilities garnered from these lawsuits for two conferences, that is very complicated. I would just be like, let's just get them in here. Just get it over with. But I've been wrong on that so far, but we'll see.
I posted the link to that joint statement in the comment section. Just click on that hyperlink. I also put it into our chat for X if you guys want to look at that, if you want to use that, Moen, but it's there if you want to use it.
All right. Jan Hulk is joining us all the way from Slovenia. And I'm going to pronounce it Jan Hulk until he tells me different.
That's what I've been doing.
Mike Smith says one of these things are not like the other. One of these schools is in a state not paired with another on the list. That's a very good point.
He was guessing Clemson, and maybe he's right on that. I'm saying Miami with the private setting.
I still don't think it. You think Miami and not North Carolina because of the state.
Oh, I definitely think it was Miami that leaked that information.
Oh, the leaked. I apologize. I thought you were talking about who's going to go, the two schools that would go.
Oh, yeah. No, I was saying out of the 7, one of them is not like the others. And
yeah,
it was Miami with their brand new shiny AAU status that somebody gifted them.
Our web brings up a great point. Billable hours at the Pac-2 law, the Pac-10, whatever we're going to call it now. I give up. Just silly they took this to court. Yeah, the Pac-2, but the Pac-10 lost the billable hours to the Pac-2 about the Pac-12.
Is that certain, web, or are we just assuming that when somebody loses a lawsuit, they have to pay the legal fees of the? Is that actually true, or are we just guessing?
Well, they have to pay their own legal fees. That's more than enough.
Yeah, but
I think he's saying they paid all the billable hours to lose. I think he's just saying that they lost all that money that they spent on their own.
Oh, so they're not paying Oregon State and Washington States.
We don't know that.
We don't know. I
thought that's what he meant there.
See, they lost big though. I mean, they thought they were winning at every level of that, and they lost it every time.
Movie Time Blues. See them on X a lot. More questions than answers. All Magnificent 7 have a landing spot is the biggest question. That's probably a very good question. I don't know that all 7 have a landing spot within the SEC and the Big 10.
It's debatable.
I don't think so.
Do they all have a landing spot within the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC? Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Miami might be out in the cold. I know they're AAU, et cetera, but they may find themselves in the Big 12.
I don't know. I'm telling you, the last big surprise I think that we have at this point that people are still, questionable about is what happens with the ACC after all this.
Notre Dame
There's
is the
two.
last thing.
There's two paths. Remember the path that Jim Williams said a while back, and what he said that the ACC was looking to do, and then there's another path that's been posited. So there's a big difference in those two paths. So
Yeah.
I mean, one of them Miami would not like, and the other one I think they would. So we'll see.
Notre Dame is the wild card.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not Miami. It's not Clemson. If Notre Dame finally decides, look, now's the time to make a change. We don't want it. The longer we wait, things will get more difficult. They have more options now than later. I think Notre Dame could move.
Well, that's a good question. Let's ask the chat what they think.
Yeah, do a poll.
Who
I
you
love it.
think makes the jump?
You could just say, which conference does Miami land in?
I'm going to do it on Notre Dame.
Oh, some
Okay,
we're doing
Notre
it
Dame.
on
Gotcha.
Bound.
And my crazy call to the chat is, I think there's a good chance that Clemson might land in the Big 12.
It is. There is a chance.
And if
Not
they land
impossible.
there, I think that they could be seeing $40 million a year.
It is very interesting. I don't think we would be having these conversations if North Carolina and Virginia didn't start these legal maneuverings within the state legislatures to control their state universities. I think there's been attempts at that for 30 years. The first realignment phases happened in the 90s. There were states that said they will sue to make sure schools stay together. Washington State. Every one of those threats has been idle. Not one of them has ever come true. So
Virginia's did from the Big East to the ACC.
Okay, so we'll have to see. Now,
That's why everyone says that one's like good to go, because that's actually precedented, and lawmakers don't have to tread a path that hasn't been tread before. They can just lean on that precedent, and they did.
I think, but couldn't North Carolina, who's probably pissed that North Carolina State voted to have Stanford, Cal, and SMU added, I could see an angry North Carolina fighting to change that.
Yeah, you just got the battle with the board of governors.
Right.
Each of those schools have their own board of trustees, but they all answer to the board of governors in the North Carolina university system. So it's just a little different. Not all states have that.
Right.
Oregon used to have that, and they got away with it. It was either Oregon or Washington used to have that, and they were both under the same body, and they split them up. I can't remember if it was Oregon or Washington.
Are you talking about Arizona?
Nope.
They had
Arizona still does. I'm saying Oregon.
That's right.
Oregon and Oregon State used to, and they split it.
Okay. That must have happened a very long time ago, because I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I've never
Casting for Chrome is saying Oregon did, and it was like 10 years ago, 8 years ago.
Okay.
I dug into it because I was trying to figure out which one of those states would have a problem splitting the schools, and neither Oregon and Washington did, because they don't have that kind of overarching system.
OPD
so what was your poll? Sorry,
it's still running.
Okay.
So I'm going to let it run a little while. OPD Don is joining us today. He's glad he had the day off. Well, I'm happy he had the day off. Glad to see you here too, OP. We don't see you on the live shows enough.
That's true. We don't.
So it's glad to see you there. Let's take a look at this poll real quick. 19 votes. I'm going to go ahead and end it. People still think they stick with the ACC.
Yep.
Notre Dame stays ACC. 58-42. Now, you wanted to do a poll immaculate on Clemson, where they end up?
You could do it on that or on Miami.
Or Miami? Okay. Let's do Miami, because I think that's what we're talking about. Where does Miami find a landing spot?
You could have 3 options for that one.
Well, we could have 4 options for that one.
You could have 5 options for that one.
Well, it's true.
ACC, Big 12. Oh, you're right, 4.
Yeah, you could have. There's a lot of options out there. It's insane, honestly. But this has been the kingdom they've built, though, right? Now they're basically being held to account. History has come knocking, and the ACC is feeling the pain. But we warned you. I'm getting tired of telling ACC people this. We warned you when the pack started to fall apart that the ACC's day was coming. And for an entire year, ACC people poked fingers and made fun of the Pac 12, who had in turn made fun of the Big 12. And it's come full circle. Now the ACC is the last one to pay the piper. So,
Well, Steve seems to think the Oregon State Beavers are Big 12 bound. I don't know about all that. I still
yeah,
think if the ACC looks to backfill, I still think Oregon State and Washington State work as travel partners on the West Coast.
I agree.
Depends upon what path, though. I mean, if it's that path of just, backfilling with AAC schools and whatnot, then yeah. But
Lowers the value, though, right?
if they truly want to go like full on private and create their own rules in their own conference and have less oversight, that doesn't really work too well for that.
That only works, though, if Notre Dame stays true.
Oh yeah, I think Notre Dame made it pretty clear that if they can make that work, they will stay there. That's why they took the extra 5 years.
Another thing that won't stop progress is everybody's asking me about Notre Dame just signed their new deal with NBC. One, that doesn't take effect for 18 months. And two, the Big Ten is an NBC brand.
Yeah. NBC
so they would
tear
just
that up.
fold that contract in. There would be no trouble legally with it. And they would just turn on
They could.
right now.
But if they were thinking the Big Ten was their first choice, then they just would have did that. So I think it's their second choice. It's their backup.
So what is your ideal for if let's say FSU's gone then, Immaculate?
Mm-hmm.
What happens? What's Notre Dame want the most?
I think that they're working tightly with Stanford and Duke. I think that they would actually kind of, I don't want to say secretly, covertly, but they wouldn't mind if all the state schools get out. Okay. State schools can be FOIA'd. They can have all their information looked at. And in an age where we have all this stuff going on with the NCAA and where you're looking at maybe employees and all this status going on, I think the value of not having to answer to state governments and FOIA requests, I think that value goes up. So I think that they want to have a conference of like minds. So those schools, the other privates that are in there, you could look at, a place like Rice, Tulane, of course, obvious. Army, Navy, also sneak in there. I think the Ivy is going to have to find a sport that actually pays bills because they're no longer going to have no scholarships there. So they're going to want a place. If they go to the ACC, they get to be part of the autonomous conferences and actually have a say in how things work versus being basically subjects of the autonomous conferences in Division I. So I think when you look at them and, the egos and everything that goes on there, they're going to want to have a say in how things go in the future when the autonomous conferences are truly autonomous. So I think that if they come in there, that more than makes up for a lot of what's going to be lost. Not the likes of FSU, but, the middle school ones. And if they build up their programs, and then, there's a pretty good future there. And in the meantime, you have Notre Dame and Miami, Stanford, Duke, and these type of programs that hold up the conference until everyone catches up.
Okay.
Well, Miami, most people predict it's going to land in the Big 12, 47%, with 31% believing they stick with the ACC, which would fit to your private school plan. Miami is a private school.
Yep.
I think that they're one of those that holds up the brand. I mean, like Notre Dame, Stanford, Duke, Miami. Who else?
Boston College.
Boston College is good.
School. Yeah,
Wake Forest plays good.
Right,
Syracuse
Georgia Tech
plays good. Georgia Tech, I'm still saying the Big Ten, but that's like the long shot.
Right. SMU, you've already got.
Rice out of Houston.
There
California is still probably going to be there.
There are those number of teams to have a very fine conference. Absolutely no problem with that.
The crazy talk is based on the fact that Northwestern and Vanderbilt are actually involved in a class action lawsuit with all of those schools
Right.
So they have been in cahoots in terms of price fixing for a while now. And we know that because the University of Chicago settled. So they basically said guilty, don't want to do discovery. Let's make a deal. So it happened, and we just don't know what else they talked about. So
I pinned a message up there.
I saw it.
Okay. I just
I
didn't
saw
know.
it, brother.
It just replied to me in private chat, so I know that you've seen it. I'm sitting here waiting.
No. I was waiting for you guys to finish up. So,
I know.
David Hackett, ACC exits are starting to happen. FSU first up to home plate. Who's next? That's a great question. Who do you guys think goes next?
Go ahead, Immaculate.
I think that comes down to who's ready. I do think that Clemson announces that they're doing this because I think that they want to get out there and they want to try and get maybe the Big Ten or SEC to grab them up before there's too much competition from the ACC. But it's either Clemson or North Carolina.
Okay. I think if Florida State declares, I think the next thing you'll hear in realignment is that there are several schools, not just one, but several schools looking to do the exact same thing, following them, but they're also trying to have a landing spot. I think the only one that has a guaranteed one, if they can get out to it, is North Carolina. I think the rest of them, the SEC doesn't want to pick up many more brands. They want Virginia and North Carolina, but can they get them? And I would put this out there. Our next date, we've talked about all these dates. Greg Pflugar's talked about dates. It was supposed to start in January, but now it's starting in December. But the next big date, August 2nd, 2024, is when all the new voting members take control in the ACC. That would be Cal, Stanford, and SMU. You add those votes to the ACC, it does complicate, doesn't eliminate the chance the schools leave on their own, but it does make it more difficult. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it's Clemson, followed by North Carolina, followed by Virginia.
There you go.
And then you're going to have Virginia and North Carolina are going to have to make their peace. I think if the SEC can absolutely get UNC and Virginia, but they're going to have to pay the price of taking Virginia Tech and North Carolina State.
Yeah. Do you see them taking two schools that
Yeah,
are like Vanderbilt?
They'll get like
to
half
get into the
pay or
market.
2/3
Yeah.
pay.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you can get half pay, it's like you're taking two schools at full pay, so it's not that big a deal. And if those states require it, then they're the ones that are basically giving up, the pay for one school in order to split it between two schools.
But now they're at 20. Does the SEC want to be at 20?
They can go up to 10 games. That's 2 games added on the schedule. That's a lot of money that they should get from ESPN. Plus ESPN, they get into Virginia and North Carolina and all that carriage. So, and they're trying to build up the SEC network. I don't think it's a bad deal. I don't think it's good at a full boat for all 4 schools. But if it's all 4 or nothing, what are you going to do?
I think they might not do it. Is what they might. They might choose not to.
I don't think they let that sit there until Big Ten decides to come for 2 more. Because at that point in time, then those state governments are going to be like, well, maybe we let them go. 2 is better than nothing.
So you're saying the Big Ten goes to 22?
Or 24 at some point in time, maybe.
Mm-hmm. God, I know we talked about that through realignment in the last 8 months in the summer. 24 teams, 3 leagues and all these numbers. I think we're seeing there's not as much money out there as we thought there was going to be.
I wouldn't say 24 until after they get autonomy and they get the new rules and conference playoffs and a lot more stuff that you can actually sell.
Which is 3 years away.
It's a ways. I'm not saying this is like right around the corner. It's just, if you're the SEC, you can do all this now while this is happening, or if you let it sit, who knows what other complications arise later down the road.
Fair.
Brian Thomas makes a great point. If Notre Dame goes to the Big with Florida State, Miami goes to the Big 12. I think that's probably correct. Or they stay in the ACC. But my question is going to be, if you've got your NIL paying $20 million plus a year for a football team, are they going to be happy continuing to pay that, being in the Big 12 or the ACC?
In my opinion, they will anyway. They want to
Okay.
win, and they'll just do whatever they can to try to get that next step up. Just because this realignment might go to another stage doesn't mean we don't have another one in 5 years.
Right.
So, yeah, I think they would, because they're Miami. That's my opinion.
I think they had a lot of people lining up money to pay for a stadium, and that fell through.
Right.
So they just had this money that they funneled to NIL instead.
Right.
So I think it's a spike.
They should funnel it to tickets to get people to go.
They need a different coach if they're going to win anything.
Sir Big Ten fan says he loves your Ivy League plan, Immaculate. I don't hate it either. I still don't believe it, but I don't hate it. So
I don't blame anyone for not believing it. That is one of those crazy plans that maybe absolutely nothing comes of it. But I think the theory is sound. I think that they are going to have to make a choice. It's just a matter about what that is.
It was fun to noodle about, though, right? I mean, that's what we're doing this for, is fun to talk about those options. It's fun to talk about people creating a 30-team Super League and mashing the Big Ten. You know, these are fun things to talk about. People, they get emotional about this stuff. I just don't know why. If one, it's out of your control. None of us have control at all. So why worry about something you can't control? And two, how fun is it to go in a room with a whiteboard and just say any idea that comes to mind? And I think that has reasonable legs. Notre Dame could do that.
And if you're a member of the Big 12 Mafia family, go ahead and put your tinfoil hat emoji right there in the chat.
Hey.
Vince is here from Garnet and Old. Let's go.
Let's go.
Right on. You know, and if some point in time we really want to dig into that, I could throw out here an article about a particular lawsuit and everyone that's involved with it. That would make everyone in chat probably sit up a little straighter and go, "Oh shit!" Because
we might save that for a short form video, Immaculate.
It's too early. I don't really want to break it out, but we started talking, so we'll talk about it. But it's just we're not there yet. We need to see all of the stuff with the NCAA play out a little bit more.
When you get back from vacation, we're going to do a flow chart.
Okay.
And it's going to be what is realignment. And it's going to have all the components. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to do that on this channel over and over again.
Ute loves charts.
He does. And he's great at them. So
Ryan Thomas with another great point. Keep in mind, with cord cutting and the decreasing leverage of the bundle, the value of the ACC network could be impaired if the distribution medium dramatically changes. Very true.
Ryan Thomas. Hey, Ryan, you never called me, by the way. I sent you a rally flag. What are you doing? Doing super chats against me.
Very good, Ryan Thomas, but it's Moen after dark. It's not Immaculate after dark. Come on. Throw a little love my way.
Yeah. He's the mastermind behind this whole thing you're watching right now.
Oh,
Casting for Chrome. Notre Dame will stay independent and watch it all play out. Thanks for being a member, Casting for Chrome.
Absolutely.
You know, we really appreciate it. We hope you're digging the new loyalty badge. 20 years easier to manage than 18. I put this out here on, I believe, Sunday night. 21 is also very easy to manage. 3 divisions of 7 teams, 1 wild card for your conference playoffs. Have a regional division. It makes too much sense. Clemson, Georgia Tech, and Florida State to the Big Ten.
Our web causing trouble. Coming in here and making us feel like, hey, wait a second, we're not covering that.
Between the 4, you would have a bunch of good sports outside of football. Well, that's probably true, Opie. Don't doubt that.
The funny thing is, though, like if they all go to the SEC doesn't need them to come in and win a lot of sports or a lot of games in football. They just need them to come in and provide a good location should an Alabama come there and it needs to be televised, or, you know, because they already have enough power, especially when you got Texas and Oklahoma coming in. You know, when you talk about hierarchies and the fact that for every winner there's a loser, do they really need big powerhouses at this point?
But I would argue that I don't think they need anything at this point. I honestly think today they could shut the door.
I think they want North Carolina, Virginia states.
But if they can't get them, We have to consider the possibility.
Sure.
They
Oh, yeah.
simply cannot be taken away. I do not see them just taking schools just to take schools. It
Right.
makes no sense. So if they don't get their top choices, why would they jump for a Clemson? They've already got South Carolina. Why would they
Right.
jump
I
for
don't see 'em.
Miami?
Yeah.
I don't believe in
don't.
Clemson to the SEC at all.
I think
Like-
Clemson's in trouble.
At all. I think that they're trying to, and that's why you see them working as hard as
Right.
they are. It's to try to get out when there aren't enough choices. Like, hey, look, we'll be Florida State's partner. We're the only one that can. Like that's kind of the situation I see.
I'm going to say this right now, and I'm going to throw this out. And I was thinking about saying it on Vince Knowles' show on Florida State, on Garnet and Old, but it got in my head and then quickly left like a squirrel. But I'm going to say this today. Clemson missed the boat here. In my opinion, Clemson should have been the first one out. Because
Maybe.
then they could have tried to drive their own. They could have said, look at us. We're the ones that are venturing out. We're the ones who really want to be in these other conferences. And just by putting an exploratory committee together doesn't kick you out of the ACC. You're still in the conference. But you're saying, we're going to challenge this. And by the way, we're open for business. And FSU is going to get that spot now. And I think Clemson is in real trouble.
Yeah, but Immaculate had a great point on Greg's show. Momentum. The playoff snub gave Florida State too much momentum.
Well, that's true too.
You can't lose that. Like if you would have
But
waited till
Clemson
after,
could have done this weeks ago, though.
they, Florida State could have too, but they didn't quite have enough to decide to pull the trigger. And maybe Clemson was kind of in the same boat.
But
And Florida State. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but what's different from today to 2 weeks ago? The only thing that's changed is perception. Nothing else has changed.
And perception is a lot, and especially when people with a lot of money sometimes make very emotional decisions with that money.
I'm sure that's true.
And the CFP situation that happened, they're playing that, but I don't think the real goal is to change a whole lot in the CFP. It's just to get all the support they need to pull out of the ACC. My opinion, and that was enough momentum to get enough people mad with enough money, enough political clout or whatever to actually do this. Because in my opinion, they're doing this sooner than we thought they would. Like
Right.
we were kind of thinking January, February. That's what people were saying.
Right.
But they got the momentum. And as I said earlier, and some people have commented about, is you don't waste momentum when you have it. If you have the momentum now to do it now, you don't wait because you could lose that momentum. And so I agree. I think Florida State was able to pull the trigger first. Maybe Clemson was trying to get there too, and they don't have a situation like this.
We need
Very
some
true.
subscriptions in here. We need people to be subscribing and paying to be members.
Hey, we'll get to that.
Let's
not
go.
even at the hour yet. Hold on.
That's fine.
I've been
Hold
doing
on,
this all
dude.
day, man.
He's so excited. He's like, come on.
He's getting that second win, that adrenaline hit.
We got
Mike
how long
Smith-
thing is we got to get right back out and do this again in the morning for the
Right. In the morning and then tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night is the one. I think we're gonna hit a wall at some
Mike
point.
Smith brings up a great point, and I really want to push this forward. As boring as Virginia Tech has been since Beamer left, I'm pretty sure everybody but Virginia fans would rather watch Virginia Tech. You're
I
not
agree.
taking Virginia for the fan base. You're not taking it for the
Exactly right.
viewership. You're taking it for its political leverage and its money.
Prestige.
It's
Virginia's
prestige.
a prestigious,
And
so is North Carolina. Same reason.
And Virginia Tech is like little brother of North Carolina. You want North Carolina, and North Carolina says, that's our little brother. He's coming with. And you're like,
Right.
Fine, whatever. They're pretty good. They're okay. Their basketball is outstanding. Their football would have been a lot better if it wasn't for the tragedy that happened there. They were actually coming up, but it is what it is.
You had to bring it up again? What?
I did. I
Trying to
had
shame
to.
me now?
Moen is the shadow Ohio State AD in the know. If that was true, I'd be.
I believe it. I believe it.
I'm replacing Gene Smith.
There
Sorry,
you go.
guys.
That's a good job.
Shadow ADs don't take over positions. They just stay there and control the next one.
Yeah. Trust me, I don't have the kind of money that Les Wexner does to make the decisions at Ohio State.
That's
Texas
exactly right.
A&M. I got the Texas A&M got their momentum when
Bingo.
the Longhorn Network tried to broadcast high school games and recruits. Overnight, it went
Yep.
from half the fan base to all of it wanting to leave, and they had a
Perfect
naggy governor.
example.
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect example, Jim.
That's exactly right.
Couldn't have thought of a better one than that. I hadn't even thought about that, but that is exactly what happened.
But it's interesting. That's an in-state one, right?
Mhm.
Clemson and Florida State are in different states. They're not like Florida and Florida State.
No,
So
different
it's hard to
situation,
say it's the same level of momentum because they're not the same. It's not one-to-one relationship there.
the comparison is Texas A&M to Florida State.
I understand what the comparison is. I'm saying Clemson is not the Texas A&M and Texas. Clemson is not that to Florida State. That's all I'm saying. There's a different relationship between those schools. So the momentum is different. It's not the same.
Yeah, but Texas wasn't really trying to get out. It was Texas A&M trying to get away from them because they were doing this.
And who knows what Florida State's motivation is? It might be to get away from Clemson.
I don't know. It's been a long day. You confused me. I kind of get what you're saying, though.
I might have to get off on a rant here.
Uh-oh.
Jose says, trying this Crown Apple, it's pretty damn good. The only time it's acceptable to drink that is if it's a free. If you got it for a gift, I'll allow it. But otherwise, the only Crown that you need to drink is Crown. You can get Special Reserve or Exa or OA, whatever it's called. But please stop buying Crown Royal flavors, people. That just encourages them to make more of it. It's, Crown Royal Black's okay. But apple, vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, we don't need it. Whiskey should taste like whiskey, people.
Sarge is now the new Big 12 Mafia enforcer.
Yeah.
I promoted him today.
Watch out, folks.
And he's going to enforce the no Crown Apple ban.
There you go. Sarge is a good guy. Thanks for being here, Sarge. In fact, everybody, thank you for being here late on a momentous Thursday night.
Yeah. Stephen, again, I'll touch on this. Why would they need both? Because you can't get one without the other.
Yeah.
We think.
That's
the
Let's belief. Is you're going to have to take both schools to get one.
That's the theory.
Yep. But we're hearing out there that people have taken that for granted for now years. But until it's challenged, potentially, nobody really knows.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's not the case in North Carolina at all. The board of governors didn't say for sure that everything had to go through them. They said that they wanted it to. And so they would have to do the vote. And we know one of those board of governors is now, who was a Duke grad, is now going to be the chancellor at North Carolina. So it's a real iffy political situation, but there is definitely politics at play going on there.
Clint Moses says to preach on my Crown rant.
I
Ryan
thought he was
Thomas
talking to
says,
me.
you won't have Bomber or I buying anymore, and that's fine. It's just more for the rest of us. That was not ranty enough. Well, I'm sorry. There might be somebody I offend from West Virginia if I start really ranting.
If you guys don't know already, all I have to do is bring up Notre Dame. Just say Notre Dame, and Moen will go on a rant. That's all you need.
True.
Just mention
True story.
Notre Dame.
Crown Vanilla. I got that as a gift 7 years ago. It sadly sits on a shelf untouched.
That sounds nasty.
I don't like.
That sounds nasty.
Now, my significant other, she will drink Crown Apple, which I'm fine with that if she wants to drink that. But me, I don't like flavored whiskey. I just like whiskey that tastes like whiskey. I know that's
whiskey.
honey
whiskey is okay.
It's not bad.
It wouldn't be my choice, but if you said this is what I have, I would drink it. But
right. It's like Jack Daniels. I don't take shots of Jack Daniels anymore, but Crown Royal, man, that's a sipping whiskey.
Am I on the right channel here? What are we doing?
No, you're right. We probably shouldn't be talking.
I'm sorry.
I don't care. I don't
Jose
care. Go
got
ahead.
us off base. If you're enjoying
get him in trouble.
Jose, you enjoy it.
Timothy Green's calling our bluff. He's saying Notre Dame, and then Casting for Chrome says rant. So
yeah, Notre Dame's going to do what Notre Dame wants to do. At this point, I've got to the point where I'm over Notre Dame and their little semantics and all that stuff.
Moved on from Notre Dame coming to the Big Ten.
I don't think you necessarily should move on from that. It could happen.
Here's a good question. Carson with a super chat. Appreciate that super chat, Carson. If ACC falls apart, do the Big Three break off? Is this the formation of the Super League?
that's
Go ahead, Mac.
no. I mean, people got to understand the NCAA does more than just,
Cash checks.
yeah. Like there's a lot of petty little stuff that they do, and I just don't think that these conferences, the conferences themselves, want to hire up all the people and do all the things in order to make that happen. They don't mind making the NCAA look bad at times and saying, "Oh, we could do this better," but I don't think they want to do it all. So, if they can get autonomy, full autonomy within the NCAA, so that the NCAA still handles all the basic, eligibilities and God, I mean, the rule book is like 200 some pages long.
Right.
So I just don't think they want to take that on themselves. So I don't see a break off. And then also you don't have any kind of legal cover that the NCAA gives on a lot of things. So no, I don't think so.
There should have been a time horizon put on that question, in my opinion. What happens immediately? No, 3 is not going to be the thing immediately. But we could see something. And 2026 is a huge year we've talked about for a long time. And then 31 is the Big 12 contract. The Big 10 contract is 29-30. So,
yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Any of those times, anything's possible.
It just comes down to like a personal opinion on some people think that it's absolutely going to happen. No, maybe they're right.
Maybe. I hate talking in absolutes. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I just absolutes are very rare out in the world.
Oh, now we're talking about vodka,
huh? Hey, no comment. Okay. No comment.
You set me
on
up on that one. So my rant has got people talking about whiskey in the chat. And Jose, if you're out there, man, if you enjoy Crown Apple, enjoy it. Live how you want to live, baby. It's a great Chuck Berry once said.
What is this? Okay, if you're commissioner of the ACC, what would you be drinking?
And don't say bleach.
Don't say bleach.
If it's Jim Phillips, it's a martini.
Yeah.
With an onion.
Probably quite a bit of wine. They like to wine,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Especially with Notre Dame, that's all that wine.
Teed that one up.
Every opportunity, immaculate.
If the ACC becomes all private schools, would they be an A4 conference?
With Notre Dame, yes. With Notre Dame, no.
Yeah. There's enough power. They got a lot of political power.
They've got some brands in there. They would still have some brands. They'd have Miami. They'd have Notre Dame. They'd have Duke. To a lesser extent, Stanford, Cal.
I think that's honestly, those schools wouldn't be sticking around if they didn't know more. But of course, that's conjecture. But I do think that would be dependent upon who else they bring.
Yep.
Nathan Campbell wants to know if somebody can gift him a membership.
Yeah, gifts. Let's do some gifts.
Brings us to close. We're close enough to the top of the hour. We'll take care of some business right here before we get back to it, guys. We've got 83 people watching on the stream right now. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
If you guys could all hit that like button. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. We bring you new content multiple times a week at no charge. But if you certainly want to give us a little of the moolah to buy these Crown Royal things, go ahead and plunk down that cash button right there in the lower right-hand corner of the chat. You can gift memberships as well. Make sure you turn on notifications for us. And that's that. All right, let's get back in here.
8 o'clock, isn't it? Jiminy Christmas.
Yep. It's just coming up on 10. I don't know if you have to bail, Nate.
I'm just getting tired. My wife's just getting home. I think I probably should.
That's fine. Immaculate and I can sit here and
we'll carry the load.
I'm going to leave you with this comment that Sarge says, "I am just here so I don't get fined." Oh, I love that quote. That's my favorite quote in the world. Anybody who doesn't know that quote, just follow Seattle lore and you'll see it. Anyway, It's been a great day, everybody. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Same time, same channel.
Yep.
Thanks for everything you guys do, Immaculate. Don, Moen, appreciate it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Have a good evening, Nate.
All
We'll
right,
see you
we'll see you
tomorrow.
guys
See you bright and
later.
early in the morning.
All right. We'll be talking probably about 8 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you guys later.
All right.
And then there were two.
And then there
Now
were two of
now
us.
the party can start.
Now we can all, okay, now that Nate's left, we can all talk about what we really came here to talk about. And that's how we can make jokes about West Virginia now.
That's how we're kicking BYU. Oh, wait, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Now we can tell funny jokes about West Virginia, and people can get offended and message Nate. Oh, I hope Pac-2 baseball gets in the Big 12, then all their other sports follows. I still think that the ACC is a viable landing spot.
It could be. I could be wrong on what their plans are. And if they go the route that Jim Williams told us about a while back, I definitely think Oregon State and Washington State could be part of that. If that's where they end up going. I even told him that when he came out. I was like, not exactly what I think, but we'll see.
George Dickel White Label. I've never had that. Have you ever had that, Immaculate?
Dickel. No, if I saw that on the shelf, that probably wouldn't be the first thing I'd reach for.
Yeah. I'm a creature of habit. I spent my teenage years on Crown Royal, and that's pretty much where I've stayed. Although I will sometimes spring and grab myself the Special Reserve or the Oak Aged.
What did I have last time? I tend to try out different ones that have ratings. When I had name's blanking on me. Anyways, I had a Winchester and.
Now the party starts. And then Opie says, and then there were two, like the Pac-2. There you go. You know what? Let's... SEC is an incredible baseball league. Very, very deep. Let's talk a little bit, get this off here real quick, about what you think the time frame is for Florida State. When do you see this all being settled, Immaculate?
Well, tomorrow they're going to come out with, and vote on whatever the thing is that they're going to file. We're going to find out which court that it's at. And then from there, people are going to be doing all kinds of research on the judge for that court, that whoever gets filed with. And we'll see kind of where they stand, their history. From there, this is court stuff. Look at how many people were saying that Washington and the Pac-10 were going to slay Washington State and Oregon State in court over that. And we were standing on the opposite side of that. At least I was. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't get this one wrong. So we just kind of got to see it. But I think, it's step by step. They're going to start challenging that gore in the courts. So how long that takes, I don't know. But remember, we got till 2026, and they got to start having things in order. So I definitely think it will get pushed through in 2024.
There you go. I just dropped a 5 gift membership bomb in here, folks, for the Christmas season. Hopefully everybody was able to click on that and grab that if they needed it. Let's see. Sky, B, Skaven, yes. His Beefness. I like that name, His Beefness. And Shooter TX was gifted a membership. His Beefness. I love it. Oh, Nathan, we have no control over who gets memberships, guys. We don't. It's all determined by the YouTube algorithm, man. I have no control over it. If anybody else is feeling generous and would like to drop a gift bomb and see if Nathan can pick one up, by all means.
Uh-oh.
There we go. Summit Hawk with the 5-member gift bomb.
I got a bunch of money too.
Oh, I like money. Yeah, I like money. Though.
Nathan's rolls are not working today.
Yeah, the RNG is just not hitting right for Nathan Campbell, unfortunately. Jan Holt, Richard L., Soap, Rye Daddy, Alexander Smitley. Thank Summit Hawk for those great subs that you just received to the Big 12 Mafia.
I think
Just a
that's
reminder
10
to
for
everybody.
Summit now.
That's 10 for Summit Hawk.
He is
Big
definitely
spender. That's
leading
why
the
he got
leaderboard. Good
he
Lord.
got the money drop. He got the
Ching, 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 bada bing.
he's got that money, and he's giving it out there for Jan Hulk, giving thanks to Summit Hawk. Good for Jan. Thank you for doing that, Jan. That's a proper etiquette to do that. We appreciate it, Summit Hawk. One more time, just a Jayhawk squawk for Summit Hawk.
Much
I like
appreciated.
that rhymes. Much appreciated.
So what do you think on the timeline? Sorry.
I'm thinking that we're gonna probably go right up to the summer. I'm thinking June, July.
Okay.
They're gonna go right down to the wire, and then they'll finally come up with something. Or but we got to remember too. Jim Phillips has already said that there's teams that if they want to leave, they can leave. So, do they already have? Has he already given them a figure?
Mm-hmm. And if just by doing this is going to start to pressure the other schools. Like, okay, this is real. We can't ignore this. Oh, they're not just bitching and complaining in the corner. Like, this is real. And I think that's if that starts to cause other movements, we might not even get to the point where this has to go in court. So
yeah.
it could be, once again, what were you saying earlier? If one thing has been constant about this phase of consolidation realignment is that everything is happening faster than we think it would.
Yes, it's accelerated.
That's pretty spectacular. And so I guess if we're going with that, and if we're thinking summer or late spring, well, it might not be nearly that long even.
Right, but here's a question I want to ask you too, Immaculate, and people in the chat, please postulate and jump in here. Does Florida State need to have a travel partner? And if they do need a travel partner, who is that travel partner?
And you know who I like. Make you drink if I say it.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. We know you like Georgia Tech. But
I like me some Georgia Tech for the Big Ten.
Does Georgia Tech have that kind of money to buy its way out?
That's the thing. No, they do not. But if this whole thing kind of starts to blow up quick and there's a big agreement, like what you just suggested, then yes, they could get out as part of that.
I don't know. I still like Clemson. I still like taking Clemson with Georgia Tech. I like taking 21 schools, go to 21, leave yourself 3 slots for future expansion to get to 24 eventually. I think that's going to be the key. But that's just, what does everybody in chat think?
I think the best reason to do Clemson wouldn't be because of what they add to the conference, but what they do in this moment to move the situation, to move the needle. And I just don't know if that's a good reason to add a school.
I think you do it for the market. You want Carolinas. You don't want to sacrifice all of the Carolinas to the SEC. Lots of snowbirds are tired of North Carolina and South Carolina.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, North Carolina, people don't necessarily think of it as what it is, but it's just because there's not one single major metro location, but there's a lot of cities that when you combine up, I mean, I think as a state, it's about 9 million people with
sure. And
a very
big fan base.
Yeah. It's a very, I think per average, it's like a higher per capita living there for people. I mean, it's a affluent state. There's a lot of money there. Charlotte's a financial capital. But like it is actually, to me, one of my cities that if I was to move and look at it, that would be one of them. It's just doesn't have a lot of the hassles of a very large city, but it has a lot of the amenities and bonuses of a large city. So I think that there's a lot of interest in North Carolina within those realms of people who would look at something like that.
Right, but I think Georgia Tech could be the skid loader for a Clemson.
That could help make the presidents and academia at the Big Ten say, okay, I think Florida State and Clemson is a no-go for them just because you're not giving them something. Like Florida State is the network pick. Like, yes, we could build them into an AAU school. Yes, we can do this, but that's not making academia say, what are we adding? Because in the Big Ten, that matters. People may not realize it, but it does. It is, with the Big Ten Academic Association, whoever joins as a full member is part of that, which means all of your research now they can access. So it's like you have to bring something to the table. And if you're bringing Florida State to make the networks happy, that's not really Clemson's job anymore. So, that's a lot of value with what you're talking. I just, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, if it comes down to only them and Florida State can go first to really break this thing free, then maybe. Yep.
Kenneth Evans think Georgia Tech is such a good ad.
Wait, me and Ken agree on something. This is
You agree on that.
Not happening.
Opie
going
agrees
on?
with me and likes Clemson. Casting for Chrome thinks Clemson is SEC, so this is a little. Everybody's kind of all over the place tonight. I like Clemson too. Eyeballs on your products. 90-minute drive from Atlanta. New market, good school.
But what happens if Clemson falls off? Like what value do they provide to the conference if they no longer provide that football brand? Like with Georgia Tech,
provide you access to the Carolinas.
Okay,
that's it.
That's it. Right. It's just I don't know if you have Atlanta with Georgia Tech, if you're not also kind of getting that too.
Casting for Chrome. I don't know what Georgia Tech's viewers were this year. But,
it was right in the mix with all the mid-tier ones. Like it was at like 700 to 800, whatever. Not great, but not bad. And if you brought them in and you started having Ohio State come there and all these schools, you would watch their numbers double just because of who they're playing and who they're having at home.
Yeah. That reminds me, I want to bring up Wild Ute's going to be doing some short form video content that's going to be released to our members only section first, called If the U Fits, where he'll be going over each school as a candidate for expansion for the different conferences. So I will have him do one of Georgia Tech do the Big Ten.
Yeah. And those are very good. Highly suggest folks check those out when those start coming out. I'd put Ute up there with anyone when it comes to his analysis and research that he puts into those, and the visuals that he provides in his graphs and whatnot make it very easy for anyone to understand.
Summit Hawk with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, Summit Hawk.
We're going to have a Summit Hawk show.
Yeah. If the Big 12 goes to 21, who's left that they get? The Big 12 going to 21. Well, let's see. They're at 16. Oh, do you mean the Big 10?
I think maybe he thought you were talking about the Big 12, but you were talking about the
Big 10. I was talking about the Big 10 going to 21. Who I think goes to the Big 12 is Louisville, Pitt. I'm a little... Louisville's definitely a grab.
I look at Pitt like we looked at Utah. Like, Utah did not want to go to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Not at all. But guess what? They're going to the Big 12.
And they'll get to bring Syracuse too, so they'll have some friends. They'll have some friends they can bring along. If the Big 10 goes to 21, who else is that they get? Notre Dame and Texas A&M would be two that I have on my list. As for the final one,
I know the answer he wants.
And it's going to be the answer that he wants, and it's the answer that I believe Kansas Jayhawks become the 24th team in the Big 10. It makes sense from a regional standpoint, from an academic standpoint, from a cultural standpoint.
I'm not gonna say no.
Charlotte to Clemson is a 2-hour drive. There you go. It's
lots
of snowbirds.
That's a fair point. If you're not going to get North Carolina because they're going to the SEC, then I might have to.
I think I get this reference.
There's some value there.
I think I get this reference. I got that one. That was Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan.
Gotcha.
I got that reference. Remember, all
Opie's
these
right.
AC schools going to the bigger SEC will have their numbers go up because these conferences watch their conference games. That's absolutely true.
Florida State
Even
doubled their numbers when they went to play LSU.
even a bad Big Ten game's a good game, unless it's a Big Ten West game, in which case it's just a bad game. If you don't like 6 to 12 overtime thrillers. Not good. The state of Georgia gets Georgia. I don't disagree with you. Georgia's obviously. I'd like the Big 12 to grab Georgia Tech, Miami, Louisville, Pitt, and Clemson. Well, you might get some of those. It's not a bad lineup if you're the Big 12 and you get that.
No, when you talk about the 4 that they already got from the pack, which they got after having the 31.7 number, and then if you were to take, 3 or 4 of those and add it to that, I don't see how the Big 12 does not get a significant pay raise, unless it's unless they're getting some other benefit that we don't know about at the time. But the sheer amount of value that they would be added by adding, let's say, I'm just going to say Clemson, Pitt, Louisville, and a Miami, a GT, or my dark pick, which is USF for a USF-UCF rivalry in Florida. And you add that to Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. I don't see how you're not adding absolute significant value to that 31.7. 40 million should be reachable.
R. Webb with a great point. Georgia Tech does nothing for you in the Carolinas, especially North Carolina, which is a surprise.
R. Webb just kills me every time.
I agree with you. I like Georgia Tech, but I like Clemson too. I think Georgia Tech is the skid that greases Clemson in. Clemson's going to have to come up with a little scratch to help out Georgia Tech to get themselves into the Big Ten.
If that's what does it, is Clemson gets Georgia Tech in for money, then okay, you got me. Yep.
And Kay was told that TV views give Kay, I'm assuming Kleovkov was told TV views gives you invites. Well, some people, it's all animals are created equal. Some are just created more equal than others. Some people do it based off of TV views. Some people do it based off of academics.
The thing with TV views is you have to prove that it's pretty steady. Like with Florida State, even when they were down, their numbers were still first or second in the ACC. With Clemson this past season, when they went down, their numbers dropped significantly. We're talking like they were still, people saying, oh, they're still number 2. Yeah, but the numbers were a lot closer to the other schools than they were to Florida State at that point. They had dropped quite a bit. So it's one of those things. You don't know the future. Dabo might never go into NIL. He might never go into the transfer portal. They might become a mid-tier team. And at that point in time, GT's viewership might be similar. You never know. So viewership is a tough one. You got to have a long period of time where you've got both ups and downs. And Clemson hasn't really been down until this season.
Yep. And they could bounce back, and Dabo could win another 2 to 3 national championships in the next 10 years. And those could be Big Ten national championships.
But you got to prepare for, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Flugar still believes Clemson has a soft landing spot, so there's that. I believe that too. I believe Clemson would be the travel partner for Florida State, but I'm not ruling out Georgia Tech as number 21. If it was FSU plus UNC, Clemson, GT, or Miami, I'm excited. Yeah, Big Ten fans are just excited if it's a Florida State. That would be that was the home run we were thinking with the Florida expansion. We were planning on a Miami team. We're getting probably the best brand in Florida and Florida State.
Yeah, we didn't think Florida State was possible. I was like,
we didn't even think they were in play.
The SEC would be so dumb to let the Big Ten get it. I was saying that all the time. And then the CFP thing happened, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, so they are dumb. I mean, that was very short-sighted, but, okay.
Opie thinks I look like Joe Dirt for some reason. I've got a Joe Dirt. We'll do a Joe Dirt
You-
play one day.
You
We'll
remind
put it
me
up
of like
there on one of our member
Motley
polls.
Crue or something.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
Motley Crue,
Like Nicky
heavy
Sixx.
metal. See the trashed hotel room?
No, totally.
Trashed hotel room.
Yeah.
Jan Hulk. Problem in this 3 alignment is the buyout. We can see a lot of teams that would fit conferences, but who can't afford that money to get out.
Not wrong.
Very true. That's Georgia Tech in a nutshell.
Yep.
The Big Ten would probably take Georgia Tech, but can Georgia Tech afford the exit fee? No, they cannot.
I got all the argument in the world for Georgia Tech joining until you ask me how they're going to do it. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Florida State, you got some extra scratch over there?
Oh, I was wrong. It was Star Trek 3. You're right. It was the Enterprise. I forgot. They blew it up in 3. I'm not a Trekkie or anything, but I do remember like the good Star Trek movies. That obviously wasn't one of the better ones. Georgia Tech is a great university in a growing city that is a major travel hub in the Deep South. That's correct. Big 12 or Big 10 would benefit greatly from adding them. That is correct.
100%.
Number 6 television market right now, projected to be in the top 4 within the next 15 years, I believe.
And GT's research is just a tad bit behind North Carolina's.
Yeah.
Their endowment's well behind North Carolina's, but it's still pretty good compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I would love to have Georgia Tech, but like you said, how do you get there?
Yep, that's the big question.
Wouldn't for mass exodus they need to break the ACC? Yeah, if there was a I see what you're saying, a mass exodus to break the grant of rights, but I don't know that that's necessarily true.
I don't know if there's enough slots. The ACC's gotten so big that there's just not enough slots to empty it out.
Oh, and a little off topic, but interesting. The great Buckeye Bullet, Jesse Owens, nearly 91 years ago, set all sorts of track records, and in 1936 pissed off Adolf Hitler in the Olympics in Germany. That's why Olympic sports are still very much prized at Ohio State. God bless Jesse Owens. Summit Hawk says you're welcome because Nathan Campbell said thanks. No, Jayhawks to the Big Ten. I don't know if he's saying no.
I thought, I'm like, is he saying yes or is he saying no?
He's crying.
But it might be because he's thinking that we're saying that they aren't going.
No, I was saying that they would be one of the 24 teams in the Big Ten.
24, just not 20, man. You guys, I know Big 12 fans hate hearing that, but Kansas has been vetted by the Big Ten for quite some time.
Yeah. Before Rutgers and Maryland came along, it was going to be Mizzou, Kansas. So,
and then for a little bit there, they were looking at Kansas, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they liked Kansas, but there was some, from what I heard, some presidents that didn't like Oklahoma. I guess they were not fans of meteorology or something. I don't know.
Why is the North Carolina the prize for the Big? They have no markets in the South. It's a prize for both the Big and the SEC because of the market. It's a growing market.
Also, Darth Delaney.
Yeah.
Who still holds a lot of influence. And, when you have someone with that much power in the conference, you have someone who's constantly advocating for them. And North Carolina has a massive endowment. Oh, talking money here. There's a lot of money there. Back in the days when basketball was a very big part of the Big Ten, not so much anymore. They've kind of switched to football. It was always the treasure, always the gem that the Big Ten wanted. And so it just kind of seems like they haven't quite moved away from that. They still want to get North Carolina.
I don't disagree. Are there better states? North Carolina has money. There's a lot of money in North Carolina right now, and that's what Big Ten wants for their advertisers. They need the money. So
Big Ten Network.
Big Ten Network households. You've got snowbirds that are retiring there. You've got our younger generation leaving the Big Ten schools with their degrees, going there for work. Very busy place, that whole Chapel Hill, Tri-City area.
It's also a state that is projected to have long-term growth in a time when more and more states are actually starting to be projected to have declining growth or even declining population, period.
Yeah. See, Mike Smith brings it up. Growing area, lots of upside potential, lots of young people moving to that area for jobs. I got a buddy
Not
who
wrong.
lives there now.
It is a state of the future, as they say.
Lives there and loves it, and can't wait to go visit him down there. But I'm waiting till like April when it's shitty here in Ohio. The Big Ten has no markets in the South right now, not yet. That might change starting tomorrow.
The SEC is
know.
just. I cannot believe that they have so short-sightedly did what they did with the CFP and thought that would have no unintended consequences. Law of unintended consequences. I don't know why people do not think about what could go wrong if we do this. Like, it just does not seem to cross people's minds these days.
Daniel Gygax trashed hotel, missing the hooker on the floor. No, she was
there.
She was there.
Removed
and she was a
out the
groupie.
window.
She was a groupie.
That's why the window's cracked open.
Yeah, that's why the window's cracked open. ACC is Bridge on the River Kwai, and FSU is Alex Guinness. I don't. I
all
know
these references.
I don't remember that movie. I'm sorry. I remember the song. The GT fascination is crazy. I know. From the outside looking in, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But when you look at the things when you look at the things beyond the football team, it makes a lot of sense.
It's the Big Ten. It's Big Ten Academic Alliance. They don't just grow for sports. Whereas like the Big 12 right now, they talk about culture and all those things, and it's important, but they're really looking for someone to increase the value of the sports conference. Big Ten, look at Rutgers, Maryland. I mean, those were largely meant to come in and balance the gains of Penn State and Nebraska. They weren't worried about them winning at all. It was their gain for the conference was research. It was academics. It was those states. It was markets. It's a lot more to it than just how well they do. And that's GT. Like if you're bringing Florida State's selling that increase to the networks all by themselves. So it's like a freebie. So at that point in time, the academia and the presidents are going to want to add something that makes their research consortium that much better.
I'm going to let you answer this one. How many would ACC backfill if SEC takes 3, SEC takes 4, Big takes 3, and Big 12 takes 4? Wouldn't they have to redo their gore that almost entire conference? I think he's talking about the ESPN media deal. I'll let you speak on that.
I'm not a big believer in that 15 clause. I know it gets stated. I know it's there. But it was agreed upon at a time when no one thought anything like this was possible. I mean, they were thinking, you might lose a school or two or whatever, so we put this in there. If you do, like maybe they probably maybe thought Notre Dame might leave. Okay, so we add one more school. We get back to 15. There's no renegotiation. I don't think anyone thought at the time that they might be losing 6 schools or even 3 schools. So just adding another 3 schools and saying, hey, you should pay us the exact same, after Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Virginia left. And we've replaced with Stanford, California, SMU, Tulane, Rice, and USF. Pay us the same amount. I consider that to be crazy talk. There's no way ESPN is going to agree to that. The loss in ratings and revenue based upon those ratings would be significant. So how many do you add? I don't think there's enough quality additions to make up for the loss. So yeah, there's going to be a redone gore because there will be a renegotiated deal. And so once you have to redo the gore, guess what happens? Free and clear.
There you go. I knew you'd have the answer for that, by the way. Summit Hawk says he'd like the Big 12 to get Virginia Tech and North Carolina State, but unsure if they're attached to Big Bros. I think they are. I think that's a done deal. I think that's fait accompli.
There would be great ads for the Big 12, no doubt. I think there's going to be some other options for the Big 12 that'll be just fine, and will do the trick to get you guys a boosted payout.
Georgia Tech would be the next Rutgers in Maryland, and I agree. They would be the next Rutgers in Maryland. They would pay for themselves and bring you a big market.
Yep.
And they would not win. They would not be a successful football team, but you need people to lose and for other teams to beat.
And what's better than going into Atlanta, Georgia with your Ohio State team, having recruits local from the area come in to watch you there, and you just show off on the local team, just showing off all your best, doing everything. And all those recruits are just, like, oh, that's amazing. Knowing that you're now going to come down there, and so their family can watch them, once every other year. Or if you got Georgia Tech and FSU, once every year. So, it answers a big one for trying to break into the South. That's why we say it's so wild that the SEC has done what they've done with Florida State.
Cleveland Rocks has a question for you, Immaculate. Do you believe Harbaugh will leave Michigan for the NFL after this year? What % possibility?
I'm just going to say yes. And percentages are tough. The only percentage I'd say that he doesn't and risk what's coming at him from the NCAA is if he is left wanting after the CFP this year. But I would still say it's, 60 to 75% yes. I don't know. Just kind of throwing that out there. I don't like percentages all that well because they're, a guess on a guess. So, but yeah, higher than 50-50.
You would have to think if the Chargers job is still open, that's a prime landing spot. You've got Justin Herbert there. I can't see if they would offer him the job that he would say no.
But if the Bears were to come calling?
The Bears less so. The Bears.
That's where his time was, though.
I know, but he spent a lot of time in Stanford and San Francisco as well. So
not wrong, but I'm saying like his time as a football player and like the connection to that, and also the CEO of the Bears was the commissioner of the Big Ten, so there is a connection there.
Georgia Tech is another Purdue. That's probably the most accurate
that would be.
representation.
Well, Purdue doesn't really give you a market like Rutgers and Maryland do, but in terms of how the schools, how they're so much alike, they should have a rivalry.
Yeah, call it the train wreck. Copyrighted. Big 12 has a beer brewing alliance with Busch Coors. Well, unfortunately for you, there's a big Anheuser-Busch plant right down the road in Columbus. So they brew their nasty beer here too. I want to hear more about Ivy League.
Yeah, he was saying about that. We're going to go into that at some point. We probably need to focus on that time so people know we're going to do that because that's a deep rabbit hole.
Jose replies back that Crown Apple is a gift, then I'll forgive it. Listen, free whiskey is free whiskey. I don't complain about free whiskey. But given my choice, I don't like the Crown flavors. I don't. But I'm old school. Yep, nothing wrong with liking it. If it was free, I'll allow it. Live how you want to live, baby, like Chuck Berry once said. The cheater will stay, especially if they win it all. Well, I don't know that it'll stay.
If they win it all, my percentage goes up. You've done everything then, and you're facing some serious repercussions from the NCAA in the offseason because they're just now getting to the cheeseburger. So if they're still going to keep up on that, they're going to keep up on the rest.
Yeah, with the Chargers, you have to deal with the Spanos family. Well,
the Bears, you got to deal with the Hollis family.
Yeah.
That is the most notorious worst.
I like Justin Fields as a quarterback, but I mean, if I had the option between Justin Fields and Justin Herbert,
I never thought about. Could you imagine Justin Fields being coached by Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah.
Is that almost like matter antimatter?
ooh, that makes my skin crawl. That's like that old Michigan Ohio State commercial.
That is like an Ohio State star quarterback being coached by like the most hated man from Ohio State. Yeah, never mind. I just changed my mind. That doesn't work.
Bud Light is garbage beer. I agree with you there. Don't drink mass-produced beer with corn adjuncts. Drink craft beer, people. What would the ACC media deal be without Clemson, UNC, Miami, FSU? That's a good question. What do you think that would be per year? Well, less, obviously. Let's put a number on it, Immaculate.
I'm guessing.
We'll
call it a guesstimating. 12?
12 a year.
From 40?
From 40, yeah.
They still got markets. Like that's why the ACC. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that is all of your viewership, though.
Yeah.
20.
20. He's being a lot more generous than I am.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's like that is a lot of your South. Yeah, I'm being generous. 20. Plus, you know what I'm thinking is coming in. So, I mean, to me, with what might be coming in, that could be. I think. Okay, we're gonna get crazy. I think Apple's gonna end up buying that. I think they're gonna buy the ACC network. I think they're gonna take the private university conference, and it's gonna piss off everyone in the pack because it'll be like $100 freaking million. It's gonna be stupid. But anyways, we'll see.
That's going to be an interesting short form video.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the crazy talk, and I fully admit it. But I think that's if Apple is willing to do what they were willing to do with the pack, and you put together that kind of a private university conference and all those people, oh yeah, I think the Apple would straight up buy that. They'd buy the ACC network off ESPN. They'd have their network they've been looking to get in order to produce stuff, and
ESPN would be happy to have them take the
ESPN
ACC
and Apple
network
would have
right off their hands.
A brand new partnership going forward. Oh yeah, I mean there's a whole lot there to it because Apple and them have been talking about them buying a part of it. Well, that's a part of it.
Larry the GM, how much would UNC, North Carolina State, UVA, and Vatek be worth to the SEC? I think we both discussed this. It'd be half shares for each, so about $40 million. More or less what they already make in the ACC, but with more security.
Yeah, I mean, possibly UNC and Virginia take a little bit more than their brother schools, but I think that the states would be like, no, you're all getting the same. So it would just somewhere between a half to 2/3.
Movie Time Blues wants to know why not the Jets, because the Jets are the Jets. Raiders an option. That's true. The Raiders are an option, but again, best job opening out there is San Diego. You've got a young franchise quarterback on a rookie deal. Fields will not be a Bear next year. I don't necessarily disagree with him.
Ooh, they could bring in JJ McCarthy in the draft then too. Okay.
Yeah.
See, now I'm going back the other way.
If Harbaugh came in and picked JJ McCarthy number 1 overall, you think Bear fans would tolerate that?
Dude, they're already talking about moving the stadium again. I think Bear fans will tolerate anything. It's all you got to say to them is remember 85, and they're like, oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I grew up 3 hours away from Chicago.
Opie thinks 20 to 25 million a year is realistic. Larry the GM thinks 15 to 20 is realistic.
Right between us.
Pack, where do you see the two? I still see them in the ACC. I still think they're the best available expansion teams for the ACC.
I think the Big 12 is made as the catch-all. I think that was its whole plan between ESPN and Fox. I think the number says it. I think the way they fashioned the contract, the fact that there's no rising amount later on, it is what it is, and then we have a renegotiation later. I'm still leaning Big 12. We'll see.
ESPN is looking to shed costs in an ACC network without Clemson, Florida State, and University of North Carolina is hot garbage. I agree.
But if you're bringing in the IV8 and then some other schools that we've talked about and some that I have not talked about yet, that's worth an awful lot to someone like the Apple. And, you sell it and you get yourself a big pile of cash for which is going to be a whole lot more than what you invested into it, and you're good to go.
Larry, the GM again. Larry, great to see you tonight. I don't think we've seen you in the chat before. Thanks for stopping by. If you could, feel free to subscribe and sign up for our notifications. We'd appreciate that. We have 72 people still watching, guys. If you could all plunk down a like on the stream, that would be very helpful. It costs you nothing, and it means the world to us. Would the value of those 4 in the SEC be more than continuing to pay the leftover, the 32 to each in the ACC? The point being, would it be worth it to ESPN to facilitate the breakup?
I mean, when you look at probably what I was just alluding to with the Big 12 payout is the ACC, because of the agreement that they made in 2016 in order to add the ACC network and to add Notre Dame, the costs for the ACC network and for the increased amounts of games that they're going to send crews to and everything, there's costs to the start of those contracts. It backloaded. So all the costs were taken out of the front, and then so the payouts pushed to the back end. So if they end that thing halfway through, they've actually gotten more value out of it. Even if I can say that there's like 2 graphs of the payout and the value. Right now, it's on the good end of it for ESPN. If they end that sooner, they basically get a steal. So there's value in that itself. And then in every school that they put into the SEC is basically going to have raised ratings because of being in the SEC. And then if it's North Carolina and Virginia, you've got the new 2 states. You've got your finished footprint, shall we say, that they want. Yeah, I think that there's plenty of small reasons that benefit for it to be one big good reason.
Bears would be smart not to waste one of those 2 top 10 picks on yet another QB. I agree. They need to draft one of those top offensive line and Harrison Jr. I also agree.
It's the Bears.
Harrison Jr. should be the first one off the board, but we'll see.
It's Bears.
Could be a generational talent in the NFL, but we'll see. The Bears.
If we had any Bears fans in the chat, I'd ask them, does that sound like a Bears thing that they do? And I think good chances they'd say yes. That's exactly. Bears are not great at making these decisions.
I was pissed with Mitch. I haven't watched a game since then. They take JJ number 1. I will purposely become a Packer.
Oh, we got a Bears fan. See?
Yeah, it looks like Sir Big Ten fan's a Bears fan.
Got to ask Sir Big Ten fan then. Would that surprise you if the Bears were to bring in Harbaugh and then draft JJ McCarthy for him? Would you be shocked, or would you be like business as usual? Curious to see what he says to that.
Yeah, if they take JJ McCarthy number 1, that's Mike Brown level thinking there. Don't admit you're a Bear fan. Listen, I'm a lifelong Cincinnati Bengals fan, folks, so I have no room to talk here about boneheaded franchises making boneheaded franchise decisions. So, and as soon as we started turning things around, Joe Burrow gets injured, and Jake Browning is now doing Jake Browning magic stuff. So, I think we're going to probably wrap this up. It's 10:40 here for me. We both got to get up early in the morning for the Florida State Board of Trustees meeting.
True story.
We are having a show tomorrow night, guys. I have a bottle of Crown. I'll be taking shots. We're doing that show at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, guys. 7 p.m. Let's see what.
See, he said he answered. See?
Yeah. I never understood the Trubisky hype either.
Bears
Never
do
understood
Bears moves. It's a
Yep.
true story.
Bears doing bear things. So we're going to sign off here, guys. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. If you haven't yet, please give us a like. If you're not a subscriber, please give us a plunk that subscription button down. Turn on your notifications to see when we go live. We will be live tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Greg Pflugar will be live tomorrow morning, following along with the Florida State Board of Trustees meeting. I think I got everything there. I got everything. It's too late.
We'll probably call in sometime with Greg when that in the morning. I know last time when they had a meeting like this, I was calling in and giving some reports because I tend to like to watch that kind of weird stuff. So we'll see.
Summit Hawks is by 1776 Rye Whiskey ASAP. All right, I will. If it's Rye Whiskey, I'll probably enjoy it. Everybody have a great night. We will catch you all on the flip side. Peace out.